Hi, my name is Renea DaCosta, and I am the Campus Compact AmeriCorps member at Southern Connecticut State University in New Haven, Connecticut. My service here has been dedicated to creating a family engagement program for first generation students and their families. Um, we've decided to call the program Sankofa. Um, and the reasoning behind that was the meaning of the word itself. So a little like short backstory on Sankofa. The word originates from two um, African languages, which means to go back and to fetch it, to retrieve it, to get it, so on and so forth, along those lines. The word also comes with a symbol. So the symbol is of a bird. It's a mythological creature, but it's a bird whose body and feet are facing forward, but its head is turned backwards. And we felt that it was like significant to incorporate in this program because we wanted to highlight the importance of where you come from, your community, your family, and how much that is so closely tied to the person that you are and how you approach struggles or difficulties or challenges, um, but also prove your resilience. So yeah, that's basically the meaning of that word and why we chose it for this program. The students that are served or would be served, well, actually, this program is really for their family members, not necessarily for the student, even though overall it is to support the student. And these students are made up of Pell eligible students or students that we would be considering um, low income, and a lot of them do happen to be first generation. But this program is really more so geared towards educating families. And so I put in my anti-poverty impact sort of section, um, like why is it important that we're really focusing more so on families and how that could contribute to anti-poverty within our student population. And ultimately, it's that, if you've got a student coming from parents who did not go to college and are working jobs, yes, but they're less than ideal, um, and not, obviously qualifying the student to be low income. The student now has an opportunity to go to college, gain a college degree, and, you know, in hopes that they get a better job that brings them out of poverty and eliminates that cycle that's probably been happening generationally within their families. If we can get multiple, many students to do that, then we could slowly, close kind of that poverty gap. Um, Especially when, a lot of our low income students happens to be first gen and happens to be students of color. So really putting an emphasis on the influence that family members have with students. Speaking personally, my mother did not attend college, but was definitely, trying to cheer me on to make sure that I stuck with it because she understood that there's so many more opportunities that come when you have a college degree beyond college than you do if you, that than would if you didn't. So I didn't do it, but I want you to do it because I want you to have a better life. And that, she couldn't provide everything financially for me, but she would give, encouragement when necessary or, reminders of why I'm doing it to begin with. And the university could do all of that for me, but ultimately I I accepted it better for my mom. So Southern is known to be a public service institution. It's known to be heavily diverse and somewhat minority serving, as well as a social justice university. They're all about promoting excellence for all different types of their students. So I picked, this is a big thing that Southern goes by, a big quote, pursuing excellence, fostering leadership, and empowering communities. And I think it's really important to pay attention to that empowering communities bit, because that should be assuming all communities are empowered, and each community needs their own different um, effort of empowerment and whatever that may be. And I think in the case of first gen students, one of the avenues that can be taken is to make sure that we are empowering the students that don't have family members that aren't as educated in higher education, and the different things that go along with higher ed. Yeah, that just need a little bit extra attention or extra information. And it really shouldn't be a problem for us to give that to them, if that keeps them in line with their a little bit more privileged peers, if you will, that have the luxury of having family members that are familiar with higher education. Um, so a few successes or accomplishments that I've been able to have so far is one, we've been able to kind of design a logo, which is really cool. So it's kind of small, but it's a family tree. And in the center of the tree is the Sankofa image. And then the tree trunk is made up of people. And the tree has all different color leaves. The trunk is black. Everything comes from black. This to us represents that everybody, one, can be included in this program, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, so on and so forth. um, it's for you and everybody. It also shows us that everybody is involved in reaching for success. It's not just the student and the parents are in the background or on the bottom, as a lot of family members like to think that once their student reaches college, um, they don't need to be involved anymore like they did when their students were in high school or younger. And that's not true. I think I know that parents are still very much so important to the college journey. I think just the journey itself, the path, the relationship you have with the student changes obviously as the student gets older, but it's definitely still important in making sure that you are involved. So this logo was put up on T-shirts that I was giving out to students as an incentive for them to participate in focus groups that I was holding. Um, which these are a few snapshots of the different focus groups that I had with both students and parents alike. Um, Parents did not get a T-shirt, but they got a gift card. So I think, that's just as good. But I held focus groups for students and parents separately. Students, I wanted to get an idea of, where they felt that they needed work within their families as far as the understanding of what it's like to be a college student and the different challenges that they face. Um, yeah, that like just making sure that parents understand that I'm not just, especially during COVID when a lot of students are kind of just sitting at home. That's what it looks like. It looks like students are just sitting at home because they didn't have to come into campus, they didn't have to go anywhere. All the events were online. It definitely gives this perception of, oh, you're just sitting there. Well, then you can help me take out the trash. You can go bring in the groceries. You can watch your little sister. You can do these things. When it's like, but no, I'm in class or I have a paper or I'm busy, but I can't tell my parent that I'm busy, so you deal with that. So they just need to understand that you may see me here physically, but I'm actually online with my professor, and professors don't care if you've got a list of chores for me to do because it looks like I'm not doing anything. So that seemed to be a really common thread or trend threaded throughout student focus groups, as well as just like sometimes just needing an extra like hug or like push of encouragement, just like to let me know that you care. When I know you care, sometimes I need to see it, sometimes I need to hear it, in ways other than money. um, so that which went went against what we assume would be a low income student's main concern, I suppose. I think also something that I needed to factor in was that most of the students I spoke to were traditionally aged college students. They weren't untraditional or non-traditional. So maybe those students, that have more expenses, more responsibilities, like children or rent or different things like that, versus an 18-year-old that, yeah, their family is low income, but they live with their family. Um, may not have those same stressors. So that also, I guess, should be factored in. But nonetheless, based off of the types of students that I spoke to that all fit the criteria of being Pell eligible, um, that was the consensus. That was basically what I got, was that I would really like emotional support, lacking in that, and as well as just like an overall understanding of what it's like to be a college student in this day and age, especially during a pandemic. I also was able to develop, it's in its infancy stages, but a website that will house a lot of the information that I've from students heard that may or may not be understood by parents as well. And parents also expressed having questions or concerns regarding specific avenues or paths of the college journey when it comes specifically to Southern. And the different things that the different resources that we provide aren't necessarily in your face on our website as they should be, or written in a language that is easily digestible for somebody who's not familiar with the way that we speak on our campus. And so breaking down a lot of the lingo and putting it in kind of a table talk or speech that's easily understandable, and that puts like the really important stuff that people actually really want to know at the forefront, instead of a whole bunch of every type of information that's available for the university, but only a quarter of it do people really want to read about in the moment when they're looking for something. So that's what the website is. There is a link. It does exist now, but it's still under construction. So it's not something that people are being directed towards. Um, and as far as capacity building continued, um, I had sent out a survey to students towards the end of the fall semester when students no longer had classes or motivation to check their emails or to sign on to have a meeting with me. So I had sent surveys out to students so that they still have an opportunity to get a free t-shirt. And I still got an opportunity to get their thoughts. And this little pie chart that I put there was, do you feel that your parents have like an understanding of the pressures that you feel as a student? And more than half said no. So I think it is important to continue building this project um, by continuing to add an information that is necessary for parents to understand about the student experience today. I think it's important to continue building it because it's ever changing. Being a student in 2019 was different than being a student in 2021. Um, and it's not even just about, COVID. I mean, there have been little things that have changed about different processes and different ways about going about things that were already in the works to change. And then COVID happened. And so then they got changed. But they're staying that way. It's not just because of COVID or, different things like that. There's always changes being made. And so even if these specific family members did go to college 30 years ago, and they went to Southern 30 years ago, it's a different university than it was 30 years ago. And it's something that needs to constantly be updated and groomed so that everyone has the appropriate information and can provide the appropriate support to their student. Um, in addition to the website that's being developed, there will also be a series of workshops that will look very much like a class almost, but they're not classes. Like there's no homework or anything like that. It's more of just like an info session. there'll be a topic highlighted for that evening, and a campus partner that is an expert in that area will come and help facilitate meetings with a representative from the department, as well as most likely a student ambassador. Um, it's also an opportunity for family members to network within each other, to get to know the campus partners that are behind the different departments and resources, and familiarizing themselves with the campus as a whole. As far as any COVID-19 challenges, the only one I really had an issue with was trying to get people to engage, trying to get people to come to a focus group after having been on their computers all day for class, or having to work with family members' schedules who are working and don't necessarily have the luxury that we all do to kind of just be home and on our computers. So it was also hard to figure out how to incentivize um, doing it. I can't just tell people, "Oh, come for a pizza party," or something like that, and typically that would work, but we can't have pizza parties. So how do I reward the behavior so that it makes it a little bit more um, attractive, or something that someone would really actually want to do? Unfortunately, people love free stuff, so I was able to figure out a way to design a T-shirt and send it out to people's homes so that they would not have to come to the campus and feel unsafe or whatever. So that was my main challenge. I had to take several routes to get to the magic numbers that I had been given as goals, um, whether it be text messaging or phone calling or whatever. It just, it definitely wasn't like a one shot and I was good. It was a constant having to figure out, okay, clearly that's not working. What do I do now? Okay, all right, that's run its course. Let's think of another idea. And so, yeah, that's probably like that was the main challenge for when it comes to COVID. Um, as far as like personal challenges, personal growths, I know for me, confidence has never really been something that I've had, especially when it comes to a job. The ideas that I put forth, I always feel like there's always better ones because I'm not as experienced as maybe other people on the call or in the room. But this year has really just like taught me to be a lot more confident with the ideas that I put forward because they're not always a bad idea. Um, and it's not that there ever really is a bad idea, but sometimes some ideas work better than others. And if there is an idea that doesn't really work as good as maybe something else would, then it's like we can still incorporate elements of my idea and someone else's idea or build something completely different. And it's not a big deal. Um, Definitely learned how to be even more flexible with people's schedules, with people's time, with ideas, of course, as well. Being able to think outside of the box, be creative, having to think on the point, on the dot, like what to do to like kind of fix a situation or um, make sure things come across right when sending out flyers or different things like that. Trying to collaborate with other departments so that we're kind of helping. I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine, sort of thing. So learning how to bargain, I guess, and how to help out when you want to be helped. And I don't know, never really had to do that before. So that's definitely a learning for me. Um, and my biggest challenge was I'm typically a lot more reserved. I don't necessarily like want to be the person facilitating a group, but I've definitely had to come out of my shell and my comfort zone and have conversations with people I've never met about personal stuff. And it so far has been working all right. And my recommendations for the future, I definitely think we need to take a look into the more heavily marginalized populations that we don't really see having a home for stuff like this. Um, so obviously, Black and Brown students are typically the majority of the University Access Programs Department, but you also have, a smaller population, but a population nonetheless of undocumented students, refugee students, and so forth. That you want to make sure that their families can be a part of the process as well. A lot of times, for undocumented student families, they're scared. They don't really want to put themselves out there out of fear that um, bad things will happen, and wanting to ease the anxiety of the student. It's hard to concentrate when you're constantly in fear. And of of course, a family engagement program isn't going to change the overarching system that's making students and their family members feel that way. But while on our campus, we can provide support, we can provide information, and a place where language isn't a barrier. Having people who speak different languages within the department also is a plus. Help people feel at home, and the same deal for refugee students. Um, whose family there's a big language barrier, and aren't really being encouraged to go to college to begin with, let alone to stay, and making sure that family members can be involved in the process for their student. As well. So I also think other ways to collaborate with campus partners is also a plus. Our, orientation department, our counseling services department, we already kind of do things together, and then certain things kind of just drop off into silos. So looking into ways that we can incorporate Syncofa with other initiatives or programs outside of the UAP office so that we capture a larger audience gradually, would also be something that I would recommend we do. But yeah, that is what's been happening since last July. Um, so yeah, thank you.